Just so you know, we're not live. I'm going to download and I'll edit it and re-upload it tomorrow. Here we go. Hey everybody, welcome to our VR show. My name is Greater Gamer, and tonight I'm joined by my co-host, Agaskacles or Aga. How you doing, Aga?
Good, man. You?
Doing great. This is the VR. We are the VR Game Nights, and we are sitting around a virtual roundtable discussing the latest news and events in virtual reality. And there's a lot going on this week. We thought there was a lot going on last week. There's a lot more going on this week. So let's just jump right into the news. And the first story we're going to tackle here is the Valve Index, the full bundle, right? With the knuckles, with the headset, with the Lighthouse 2.0 controllers. All the pre-orders are sold out for the initial batch. So they're not shipping until, if you order it today, you can still get it, but you won't get it till September. So what does that say, Aga? What does that say about this? Does that mean this is really popular?
So we came across the article that showed that it was supposedly one of the top 10 selling products for the preceding week after its announcement. And in some cases exceeding some game titles, and that was in several different configurations, right? So I think I can't easily get back to the article right now, but I think just the headset was maybe one of the things that was on there. The full-blown kit was on there. I want to say like 3 different sets of mix and match parts of the Valve Index were on there. So I guess, I mean, or maybe it was just a week of slow game sales. I don't know. It's hard to believe that the thing has captured just that much mass appeal. I would tend to believe that the LRIP product run that they have for this first wave of pre-orders was a fairly small number. My guess is, and we're learning. I'm learning more about this whole domain as we talk about it more frequently and I read more on it. My guess is that the tough thing to fabricate are the lenses. All the other technologies are kind of commodity parts, generally speaking, from other technologies. So I can't believe that it would be hard for me to believe that this means that they sold as many Valve indexes as copies of GTA 5, for example, in a week. But the sales data apparently appears that uptake is strong, I guess.
Well, I'll tell you that the people I've talked to, especially a lot of people who commented on last week's show, they kind of fall into 2 groups. One, they're looking for the next generation tracking, the next generation, experience, right? So they want next generation controllers, they want next generation tracking, and they are in 100%. $1,000 is nothing towards their budget. And, there's a few people who say, hey, I already have a Vive, so I can just jump in with the headset right away. But most people I've talked to have fallen either into the $1,000 for my gaming hobby, for my VR hobby, that is well within my budget. And one of the guys said, "Hey, look at the Vive Pro. Look at what that cost." And the Pimax too. I mean, look what the Pimax costs, right? Now, then the other side, I think the other side are kind of like, that's $1,000 is just, I don't have a Vive. I don't have a Vive Pro. It's just too much. Yeah, the resolution is the same as the Samsung Odyssey, which came out in 2017. So I really, the people I found it, they fall in 1 or 2 buckets. But I think it's wise for Steam not to overproduce a lot up front, because you never know if you run into quality issues. You get a bad chipset, and you don't want hardware sitting on the shelf, right? Because I picked up my Steam, I don't even know what to call them. The little Steam boxes where you can play Steam on your TV, your Steam games on your TV. I picked those up like $5, $8. So, they had all that extra stock there. So, it's good. It's good when you're making hardware not to go overboard. And I think this is healthy. I think it's healthy to see, hey, they sold out. They got another batch coming. They're not overproducing. And but still, I fall in the camp where, and I don't know, I think our viewers know this, but this week I actually pre-ordered an Oculus Quest, and I've been telling people, hey, I'm just kind of sitting on the sidelines right now. I got 3 headsets. I got 2 Windows mixed reality, and I get the Rift, which I love my Rift. The Windows mixed realities are good too. If I default to one, I default to the Rift because I love the touch controllers. But I'm playing most of my games on Steam because I want to be able to play them on all. So I'm going to sit on the sidelines and wait a little bit longer to see how everything comes out because I already got headsets. I'm not in a rush. But now, and I know you had said in the last episode that you had pre-ordered a Rift S, correct?
Right. So, yeah, and I kind of got, interestingly enough, as you talk about those index orders being pushed out a month or a couple of weeks, I was kind of in the same boat where, like I said, I came home immediately after the press conference, or as soon thereafter as I could, and looking on my phone at pre-orders. Right before I left work, they would have shipped the 21st. By the time I got home and actually clicked through to order, I was, pushed a day later. So I think, I guess the good news all around is that apparently, in aggregate across the VR industry, there's significant interest in that. People there's a healthy number of pre-orders being snapped up for people who are apparently sitting in wait, for the go command to pick up one of the headsets that became available that week of the F8 conference.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, this is followed up with a couple other stories too. So we had that story, but quick on the heels of that story, we had another story about the Oculus Quest being the #1 selling video game hardware on Amazon. So apparently the Quest, and I've seen, honestly, if you're on Reddit and you're checking out the different virtual reality channels, there's a lot of excitement on the Quest. I really don't understand it, to be honest with you, because I've always been a PC HMD guy, but I pre-ordered one because, it's something new. It's great to get on the ground floor. I don't think there's any other 6 degree of freedom standalones in the $400 price range. Correct me if I'm wrong, but all the ones I've seen have not been in that price range with 6 degrees of freedom.
No, and I think you're right. I think the thing that's worrisome to me is and you may disagree. I worry that I don't know that everyone understands what the Quest is and what they're buying. I think I worry that there's a concept that they see the Quest, they see the higher resolution, and they see that there's no cables. And I worry that there's a misperception that this is a thing that somehow wirelessly links to your gaming PC. Not that it's a standalone thing that, as far as I know and can understand, runs Android. And so, and I don't think there's a lot of people who I'm worried that there are people who haven't done Android VR before. So I'm worried that they have a potential misperception on the fidelity of the content that they're going to be consuming potentially. And I personally feel that the Quest is going to wind up being kind of the story of a gaming console, that you're going to get experiences similar to what is on offer for Android-based VR today. But by 2 or 3 years from now, you're going to be getting much higher fidelity experiences as the programming framework is improved, and as developers gain more knowledge about how to render higher fidelity content within that SDK.
Yeah, and I think we should probably make it very clear for anybody who does not know. The Oculus Quest is a standalone headset. It's a mobile VR experience. The graphics, everything you read says, Robo Recall, Super Hot, all of these games, Beat Saber, every game that runs on the PC is going to run with less flash, with less, that's going to look good. That's going to have great, it's not going to be jagged or pixelated, but it's not going to have as much graphics in the actual game. You're not going to have as much, whatever it is, your environments are going to be simpler because it is running on a mobile processor. Now, for me, I have a ton of single player games I've picked up on sale that I've never get around to playing because whenever I put on my Rift, I'm playing with friends. We're doing co-op. We're doing Carnage Chronicles. We're doing, Star Trek Bridge Crew. We're doing Battle Zone. We're playing all these great games. Hopefully soon, No Man's Sky. So I really haven't experienced a lot of the single player games. Like I got Space Pirate Trainer. Like I've played it once and never played it again. So I'm actually looking forward to the Quest because my wife and I go camping, and there's times there where she's off doing her thing, and I'm looking forward to doing some of these single player experiences. Maybe getting progressing through Beat Saber, progressing through Space Pirate Trainer, maybe even getting some Orbis Reborn. Getting through some of that, and I know that's a multiplayer game, but and I'm focusing really. I'm going to initially focus on games that are cross-buy. So there's not. We'll talk about that too. And I should probably mention all the news stories we're covering tonight. All the links are in the description of the video when it gets posted, so you can see all the links there if you want to look at any of the stories, directly. But I really do wish Oculus would have made a Quest Plus that also could act as a PC HMD, maybe add another $100 to the price. I would have been, extremely happy with that. But in any case, they didn't. So that's my story and I'm sticking to it. Hey, kind of in the same vein, Aga.
And just one dime here. So yeah, and I've been trying to pull some things up, but as far as I can tell, most of the other tech websites and podcasts who cover VR or just tech in general, as far as they understand, including people who were at the announcement, as far as they understand, the Oculus Quest does run on Android.
Yes, and most of the reviews have been great.
Okay, yeah. I'm not sure if I said Oculus Quest. I meant to say Oculus Quest, but yeah. So Oculus Quest, and in Samsung Gear VR. Do you have a Go?
I don't. I never picked one up. I think the thing that stopped me was really the 6 degrees of freedom, not having that. So plus I got so many titles backlogged on the Rift. So hey, I want to move into the next story because as a surprise announcement, which was very smart, HP announced that on May 6th, you could order your reverbs. So the HP Reverb is the class-defining, highest quality 2K times 2K per eye Windows mixed reality headset. It kind of looks like the Lenovo a little bit, or maybe more like the Oculus, really. But the only downside with that headset is, $600. Yeah, but it uses the Gen 1 Windows mixed reality controllers, which aren't horrible. They're not horrible. And if you're just going to play sim, like if you're just playing Elite Dangerous or you're just playing Project Cars 2, you don't care about motion control, right? Because you're either using HOTAS or a wheel. But I think the majority of, again, these people either they don't want it because of the tracking, or they do want it because of the high fidelity, the highest resolution. So people seem to fall into two categories. To me, I kind of want it all, and none of them's giving me the all. But that was the HP announcement, and then one final announcement was, and I want to get your take on this, Aga, is the Steam hardware survey. Now, Oculus has been gaining on this for a number of months. But Oculus has not been available for sale for several weeks. And I wasn't really surprised to see Vive catching up because Vive is selling products. Rift is not. So I almost feel like possibly Rift users kind of put down their Rifts, or, obviously new Rift users just stopped coming into the market because there was no product for them to buy. So that's interesting, but it was a good news for the Vive people to start to inch back up on that hardware survey. Did you have any takes on that? Any thoughts on why that happened? Hey, guy, are you there?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So no. I myself kind of got caught up in this gap. The And I think it's just a supply thing, and Oculus just trying to bleed the one out. I'll call it 1.0. It was actually beyond 1.0. I guess you could think of the old dev kits as 0 point something releases, but I think they just bled them out of the inventory and they didn't refresh them. And so there was a gap in the weeks leading up to the Rift S announcement. And quite frankly, it's why I wound up with a Vive. They were either out of inventory or they were still priced at the original MSRP. So I did come across some Rifts. They were being sold at $699, and I was like, yeah. And again, I guess they did. I don't know why they didn't. You would think that they would have fire sold those, but as far as I could tell, they just bled them out of inventory, didn't replace them. The ones that were remaining in inventory were still priced at original MSRP, and nobody was buying those. I guess Steam was one of those sites where, whether it was Steam itself or people responding to the survey who were looking around at other stores, there were lots of stores that just didn't have Rifts in them at all. I want to say, I think I inventory checked at the Best Buys in my vicinity as well, and they also did not have Oculus Rift headsets, as far as I recall.
One of the news sites over in the months leading up to F8 was kind of keeping track of everybody who was running out of Rifts. So the Rift was, I mean, if you got a great deal, you could get it for $350 new. But for the last year, it's been $399, and so. Which again, I think is a great deal. I mean, it's a great product, and then some will say, well, Gray, how come you don't want to get the Rift S for $399? Because it's not a big enough jump from what I bought 3 years ago. But in any case, the stores slowly we were hearing reports that Best Buy's out. This store is out. The Microsoft store is out, and then finally, Amazon was out, and then the last people who ran out. A few weeks before F8 was the actual Oculus site itself. They were like the last holdouts that had some in stock. And so yeah, they definitely, if they could have just kept a little bit more stock going until, the 27th when they start shipping the new ones, that probably would have been preferable. But again, nobody wants dead inventory, right? That is, I mean, if you've been out in industry, that is a huge money pit. So good for them that they were able to clean out and sell them all. But it looks like it might be hurting because people can still buy Vives. So there's like a month or two period here when nobody can buy a Rift. So that's kind of sad. Hey, I want to segue into our next story, which is one of yours. Demos are hard, especially in VR.
Yeah, so this story was actually sourced from my own new blog that I started this week over on Wix, which is a free hosting service. So it's agascles.wixsite.com/gearworks, and I'll probably using that for a while until I decide to pay to re-up my Squarespace site. But I was a little flabbergasted. Maybe that's not the right word. I should just be not surprised by the inaneness of people on the internet who want to make a big deal out of little things. But Microsoft Build Conference is going on this week. One of the big things that we talked about in Facebook Messenger in between last episode and this one was that there was a walk up to the reveal of the HoloLens 2, which has been a big product push for Microsoft over this past week. Unfortunately, the HoloLens 2 demo that they had during the Build Conference failed. John Knoll, who is, I think, a creative director at Industrial Light and Magic, and has worked at several other places around the industry, the creative industry that have pioneered or been heavily dependent on technology innovations such as HoloLens. And I can't remember the other gentleman's name, but I think he's like an Apollo mission historian. And I'm not sure if that's in a professional capacity or if that's just an extreme hobby of his, but he's somebody who's very knowledgeable about the history of the NASA space program. And so, unfortunately, they came up on stage and hit the point in their script, which is very early, when they expected the demo to then present on stage, visible to them both in HoloLens as well as rendered in freestanding space for the audience to see. and unfortunately nothing happened. They were literally on stage for a grand total of probably less than 5 minutes. I don't know what comms were going on. I'm sure they had earpieces in so that they could hear the crew who was in back running the demo rig. But I'm assuming they either got the call that the demo was not going to run and to walk off stage, or just decided to do so on their own. But they hit that point in their script, waited a few seconds, nothing happened, and then I said, I think the Apollo historian said, well, this is just an example that, demos are hard. And then the two of them just kind of walked off stage without any other explanation or anything. And apparently they were followed by Satya Nadella, who also came on the stage and just chose not to address the issue. Now, again, what the internet did was they exploded and they were like, oh, this is, there hasn't been a Microsoft stage failure like this since Windows 98 crashed when Bill Gates or Ballmer were demonstrating it. And this is professionally embarrassing and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I mean, you and I are both engineers. You and I have both been in, around, participated in, supported demos. We both know how they impact the product lifecycle, because what you have to do is you have to take staffing to divert from whatever your current development path is to go support the demo, because the demo is always a branch where things are being done that are not actually part of the primary product development, because you're trying to stitch and stub the thing out for it to actually work on stage. So it's kind of a big distraction in some ways. Granted, admittedly, sometimes in commercial, that stage demo is kind of part of because you've got to get the product out for people to take a look at. So that I titled my article, I'm looking at the agenda. I thought I had the title of the article there, but demos are hard, especially in VR, because demos are hard, and a lot of times, it's fingers crossed. It's not necessarily the iPhone demo. We've all read the history of that, but typically there's the chance that something's going to blow up, and you have a very specific buttonology path you can follow. I guess I wrote kind of a counterculture article where my point is this is incredible technology. The likeness of which, in my opinion, in a lot of ways exceeds what Rift and Vive and even Index are trying to do. And it's not gaming focused, and it's enterprise focused, and it's sometimes not cool and not sexy. But from a technology aspect, it's the closest thing going now to the Minority Report graphic that we fell in love with, yeah, and the Tony Stark Iron Man Jarvis thing that we've been in love with since 2008. And so what I posted was, I actually posted as part of my blog post the YouTube link to the dress rehearsal that they did for the demo, where it's actually working. And they're doing a lot of hand movements as if they're moving the pieces. They're not really moving the pieces. I think it was all to make it look like that's what they were doing in some ways. And you could tell that they weren't doing it, so it wasn't like they were trying to fake it. I think that's the eventual desire, is that you will be able to interact with the AR models and actually manipulate them. But still, it's an incredible demo. It is a floating in space hologram, right? I mean, straight out of Star Trek, of the Apollo missions and the moon landing and all this kind of stuff. So, my article was a lot about, hey, let's maybe give them a break and say, this was a moonshot. They tried to pull this demo off. It didn't work. I'm sure that they learned a ton for it. It's also one of those things where, unfortunately, I'm kind of I guarantee you that 5 minutes later, if you would have pushed the button, the demo would probably work fine. So, but it's interesting to see what they're doing. Still well out of consumer reach in terms of price. I think the dev kit is $3,000 or $3,500. But and I don't know if it'll ever come down in price to consumer level, but it's exciting technology, and my hope would be that it would eventually trickle down into AR VR products that we'll have access to.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I just think back to my first cell phone compared to what we can do today. So the technology will get cheaper and more accessible, and I'm sure, just like with the cell phone camera, which is now ubiquitous, right, in every phone, but that came out like over a year. Every phone had cameras in it. It seemed like. So the same will happen with AR. I think we'll get very inexpensive. I know all the big people are working on it, and having been on stage in front of hundreds of people doing demos, you're really, a lot of times you're rolling the dice, whether some random act of, just tonight I put on a pair of headphones I've never used, brand new. One ear doesn't work. It's like, it's that Murphy guy. It's just that Murphy guy. But in any case, hey, I think you put this one up here about HTC giving something away to the competition.
Yeah, this is weird. Like, so it's weird, and it's also as a Vive owner, it's also bothersome. So you have talked and coached me through at length the presence that the Rift store offers for Oculus owners, and have also mentioned that part of the thing that's problematic with it is that it is a walled garden and it only supports Rift or Oculus devices. Therefore, you don't source your games from there because you want to be able to play co-op with people, and other people can't buy that game if you buy the Rift, or you can't play with other people who might have a Steam version of that game if you buy the Rift version, potentially. Vive has a similar service called Vive Port, which I have access to. I haven't bothered signing up for because, like you, I'm like, well, that's really cool if I want to get a lot of Vive specific stuff, but I don't. Like, I want to buy Steam games for the cross compatibility. However, for a lot of people who might get a hold of a Vive device, and maybe it's given to them, maybe it's a gift, they don't necessarily want to go to Steam and spend a lot of money buying games. Viveport, I think you get a free month or two or something in the box when you buy a Vive. There's a little card with a gift code in it or whatever. But I know a lot of people, again, not so much PC ones, but I know people who own mobile VR equipment, typically a lot of times have that and survive on demos and free content from some repository. Viveport kind of satisfies that need, although it's for a full-scale consumer PC gaming product. But I'm sure it has plenty of subscribers and members. For some reason, HTC is giving away 2 free months of Viveport to people who buy the Index, and I guess all Rift headsets. So now I don't even need to do it for my Vive. I can wait till I get my Rift S, right, and get 2 free months. So it's just weird. I mean, it's appropriate. I mean, this is kind of the way it all should be, and Rift should be allowing access, to Vive owners. Now, what I don't know is I don't know or understand enough about the difference in the APIs and what drives Rift compatibility versus Vive compatibility. Apparently, if a thing is in Viveport, it is compatible with Oculus headsets, I guess, which I don't. Again, because I don't understand some of the inner workings of the code yet, I don't quite understand that, and maybe it's because they both mate to Steam VR, and that's where the compatibility layer. I don't know, but at any rate, they are giving away 2 free months for anyone who has a Rift or Rift S, as well as the Index. Now, I would expect that the Index code is built on the foundation of the code that Valve would have had access to based on the support agreement that they initially signed with Vive to help HTC along in making Vive compatible with Steam VR. So the trade for that was probably at least intense access to the Vive SDK so that they could build their own hardware. It could have involved actual exchange of the source code because, HTC's viability as a company I still constantly find questionable. But this is interesting, and I do feel a bit slighted because I feel like, hold on a second, I own a Vive and you're not giving me 2 free months, right?
No, I totally hear that, and I like it. I think it's great, and I'm going to tell you why. Because it's the same thing, Epic Store versus Steam. I like Steam. It's a good store. It's not perfect, but they have great sales. And unlike Microsoft's Games for Windows Store, when I buy something from Steam, I have it forever. I don't have to worry because Steam, that's like a major part of the company. That's like that is. It's not a Microsoft, hey, we're going to do a game store, we don't want to do one anymore. This is a huge part of the company. This is a branch of the company that's not going anywhere. And so I trust them, right? And they've never let me down, right? They've never pulled a game and that I bought and not allowed me to play it, like Microsoft did with games for Windows. And so it's I think it's good to have competition. We trust Steam, but they need competition. That without competition, things don't innovate. Things don't, people don't become better and do better. And so that's why I thought it was a good idea for Rift to have their own store and Vive to have their own store when VR first came out back in 2016, really for all intents and purposes. And the fact that most game publishers or most game studios have published on all three. Okay, so let's say you're making, I don't know, what was I looking at here? Fruit Ninja VR, or I Expect You to Die, or Final Assault, a game you were telling me about. You have your game in all of their stores already. So you know how to make it Steam VR compatible, Rift SDK compatible, and Vive compatible with the Vive store. So you already have all three copies. So I thought it was smart for Vive to say, hey, you're already selling Fruit Ninja VR or Final Assault in our store for Vive headsets. Why not? Why not? We're going to let you sell, we're going to let you load a version that works with all the headsets, not just one that works with ours. And I think it makes sense because, um, you know, they're giving competition to Steam. They're going to give people another choice of something to do, and they're doing something different that nobody else is doing. And this is, it's risky, right? It's always risky to be the leader of the pack. But they've seen what Netflix done. They've seen what GameFly's done. They're seeing what Games on Demand and EA Access and everybody else is doing, right? And so they have this infinity system for $13 a month, $12.99. You get unlimited access to a whole bunch of games, much like the Xbox Game Pass and EA Access. And I just think that's awesome because you know what? That's gonna be the best option for a lot of people. Just like GameFly, just like Game Pass, just like EA Access is for people. So so I think it's cool. I don't think a lot of work had to go into it. I think it's cool now. I thought at some point they were adding Windows mixed reality compatibility, but every time I click on one of the I'm at viveport.com. Every time I click on one of the games, it says supported headset Vive, Vive Pro, and Oculus Rift. So possibly they don't have the Windows mixed reality in there yet. But in any case, I don't know that I would actually buy games outright from the store, but that $12.99 deal for, play as many games as you want, that's actually sounding pretty good. And you get 14 days to try it if you don't like it, especially if the Cosmos turns out to be a great headset, kind of in between the Rift S and the Index. It may be definitely something to try, especially if you want to review games and just experience a lot of games. Could be very cool. I really think, when I compare what Steam has and what Oculus has a great store. I'm glad you pre-ordered an Oculus Rift S, so you can experience this store and experience the home environment, that the VR home environment. It's fun. It's cool. I love how you can just click a button, resend your headset, click a button, get back to your home, and you can pull in, pull up your monitors in front of you and see your monitors, and just by the push of a button. They've done some great things, but I don't think the Oculus Store will survive if they try to make PC gaming like console gaming. I mean, the Oculus Store works for the Go, it's going to work for the Quest, but for a PC headset, I don't want to buy a game and then be locked into just using an Oculus hardware on it. I accept that I think we all accept that with mobile, right? But when it comes to PCs, that's why we use places like Steam. We want to buy it once and use it anywhere. And I think MyPort gets around that by saying, well, hey, you can just pay $13 a month, try everything you want, and cancel anytime. So it's kind of their way of getting around that. So I don't know. I thought it was a good idea. I'm sorry. I'm sorry it disappoints you, but I thought it was. I think it's cool for them to do this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a smart business move, as you mentioned. I guess. So there are some pluses and minuses to it. You get free games. I don't know if they rotate weekly, but for instance, this week you get LA Noire, the VR case files for free. That's a game that's worth $30 and you get it for free. So that's not bad at all. By the same token, it's missing some key titles, such as Knockout League, the one that and I expect you to. I'm sorry, those are ones that are in. Major ones that are out are Beat Saber, Skyrim VR, Fallout 4 VR, a Vacation Simulator, Job Simulator, and Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. These are ones that I guess have VR modes, but are not part of Vive Port. So
I think that makes sense though, because those are games that either are new and still have a lot of left in them, right? For real, first person sales. They don't need to go on the rental shelf yet. It's like a brand new movie, right? You can't rent it yet. You only can buy it. And I think that's where those are. But some of them are just like phenomenons, like Skyrim VR and Beat Saber. They're not. They've had phenomenal sales, and no matter what, they're going to have phenomenal sales, right? So there's no reason for them to get in that pool. And that happens with movies too. Sometimes, to my dismay, because there's not such a big disparity there between movies and indie games versus hits. But I can understand that. It's disappointing. You would like to have everything in there, but I'll give you the final word on that.
No, I mean, it just sweetens the pot, right? And again, I'd say a bit, unfortunately, seemingly it's for the competition. It sweetens the pot for, if you're waiting in the wings to determine whether or not to buy an Index or an Oculus Rift S. It's just the knowledge that, depending on when you buy it, and actually this is a thing that gets better the longer it takes you to get into it, because they're steadily adding more stuff under this program and making it available. But yeah, it sweetens the pot for people who are thinking about buying an Index or a Rift S, because you kind of know that in general, even if you are, I guess, can we say that VR poor is a new title to throw around? If you are VR poor because you spent so much money on your headset that now you can't afford to buy games, this is a good deal, right? Because you can get the $1,000 headset, even though you kind of had to play, maybe 3-card Monte with some bills to get to it. But now you've got it, and you're like, but I can't afford to buy any games. Now you'll have, a ton of content available in Vive Port that might keep you occupied for the first 2 months. So,
well, and I'll throw out that too. Maybe you're just getting into VR, and you want to try a ton of games because you're like, I really want to build a library, but I've missed all the initial reviews in 16 and 17 and 18. You're behind the gun. You're like, I hear about all these classics, but are they games I want to have in my digital library? So that's another case for it. Hey, I want to share my screen on this next story, because this was something shown at, what was it shown at? This was some video shown at Facebook. They showed off high quality markerless body tracking, and again, there'll be links to everything we're talking about in the description. But I wanted to, and they have some really impressive face tracking that I saw that was really cool. But the best one was this little soccer game. So I'm going to try to screen share this. So I hope you can see this too. Let's see here. I got to share my alternate screen. Okay, can you guys see that? So I don't know what it takes to make this tech work, but this was amazing. And again, we'll link to the video because I'm sure it's not going to be as smooth as what I'm seeing here on my computer. But this type of full body tracking is awesome. And I just wanted to share that story because again, who knows when we'll see the tech or if it'll ever come out. But in any case, I wanted to share that because that was just pretty amazing.
Yeah, and to me, I mean, I guess my concern or my issue is when we talk about how kind of these 1.5 headsets, VR 1.5 headsets have come up, and they're not Sorry, here while I open a Monster. There's not that much meat in terms of the progression, and my feeling is we need the next thing that we need also, as you mentioned, problems with the motion controllers is we need trackable gloves. Like, I want to play Elite Dangerous, but like one of the things that that holds me back is, and some of this I'm inflicting upon myself, is that like this notion that, okay, but to play Elite Dangerous the way I want to play it, even in VR, I've got to break out and hook up my flight control system. So that's a cognitive load in and of itself. Then you got to stack on VR. And then, as I mentioned last episode, then you might be trying to live stream as well. That's a lot of stuff to unpack and get like your head wrapped around and get working. What I really want is, and even with Star Trek Bridge Crew, where you tap into a lot of displays. Now, it uses motion controls, which is a good approach to it. But I would like to see the next evolution of the motion controls be that you take that technology and you slip it into a glove, and we just put the gloves on, so that way I can actually reach out and tap the console, or I can actually reach out and grab a throttle lever and pull it all the way back for maximum thrust, or there are more intuitive things that I can do, because we all know I love driving and piloting vehicles, right? For games, is I just want to be able to reach out and touch a thing, and that also reduces the cognitive load in getting your head wrapped around the abstraction that is in VR. One of the things, we'll talk a little bit about Final Assault once we get to the gameplay section, but one of the things that I had to deal with is, when things get busy and I'm already loaded up with just the normal RTS genre paradigm of things I'm trying to manage, sometimes I'm like forgetting, like, how do I get the game to pause again? Where do I hit to click into this menu? Because it's not just waving the wand, it's waving the wand and a certain degree of buttonology. So, I mean, this is good to hear, but I'm like, instead of focusing on the moonshot, just give us gloves.
I looked for them a couple of months ago, and there's a lot of people designing them for developers, but I didn't find any affordable ones for you guys like you and I. I do love playing Elite in the with the new HOTAS. I got a real HOTAS, not those $40 or $50 ones, but I have the T16000. It's not the most expensive one by any means, T16000M. But one of the things, and this is one place where VR is behind, is live streaming VR is difficult. It's difficult. We've done it. I do it every Wednesday night, well, except when we play Project Cars because of technical reasons. But it's hard to get to the chat. It's hard to see if the live stream's working or if you've disconnected, or it's very difficult. That's why when I play Elite Dangerous on Sunday nights with the guys, I'm still playing on three 4K screens, with a massive field of view. So, but at the same token, I'm not playing in VR just because of the difficulty, because we interact with so many of our viewers on Elite Night, and we have so many good friends who join the chat and talk to us. So that's just very frustrating when I'm live streaming in VR, because I can't say hi to all the guys who are watching and have a conversation with them. So yeah, definitely some spots, some places to go. Some ground to make up in VR as we get that we can feel like we're using our hands in the game. There
Right.
is a game I want to share with you. I don't have it. We'll do it for next week. But the guy basically designed a spaceship game where you can touch everything in the cockpit. And I think you're gonna love it. It's not something we can buy. It's kind of like an alpha. But were you gonna add something?
Oops. I was just going to say on your thing about VR live streaming. Yeah, it's a lot of pushing the I believe button, right? You go, and I have a special slug that I put in the notes below the YouTube video when I'm live streaming VR, and just reminding people, hey, chat's disabled because I'm under the visor and I can't monitor it and moderate it. I peek out, every 15 minutes or so, or in between missions, just to verify that the stream is still going and it hasn't dropped sync. But yeah, you can't get the chat inside the visor. By the way, VR developers, that's the next thing we need. We need gloves, and we need ways to be able to maneuver the chat for a live stream to somewhere inside the helmet or inside the visor, so that we can monitor it or get to it. While I mean, quite honestly, and what's weird too is, they have the cameras, and they have the cameras that switch to the exterior view. Right, when you get to the edge of the thing, like I would say that's the third thing that I want, is I also want an ability to toggle that manually, so that I can choose to just, I don't have to keep lifting and raising the visor, which I think over time is going to become a mechanical wear and tear issue. For the flip type visors, like for the Acer that you have.
Yeah.
I just want to be able to turn that on and off, when I choose to, so I can see the outside world with the cameras.
Well, it definitely is. We were talking about refurbished units. I actually bought a refurbished Acer, and it wouldn't stay flipped up, and I use them with my grandkids, and that's not acceptable. They have to be able to put them on and have it flipped up, so the wear and tear is real.
Yeah.
And I'll just add to that too is that with Oculus, you used to be able to pull individual windows into your view, but now you only can pull full monitors unless something's changed. You only can pull an entire monitor, and I don't want the whole monitor in.
Right.
There is a tool I picked up on Steam that allows you to bring in just a window, but it doesn't work with any games that are running the Rift SDK. And most Oculus games on Steam run the Rift SDK because they just get better performance.
Right. Yeah. By the way, Amazon no longer calls things refurbished; they call them renewed.
Slightly used.
Yeah. Which I have a major problem with, but we'll talk about that some other time.
Well, hey, I want to do a quick blast and go through a few new things that I found. And let me go back to screen sharing again here. And this game looked really cool. You can go up here again. You can take a look at the trailer here. Basically, it's a VR game where you are a pirate. You have pirate ships, and there's PvE, there's PvP, there's co-op. My big question, and I posted it on their YouTube channel, was, is it going to be more than 2 players? Because we play right now Furious Seas with 3 or 4 players. So that's an important thing to note. The next thing I wanted to show folks is I found this site. Somebody posted this over at Reddit, some very nice person, and let's see what I got the thing hidden. Let's see. This is Studio Form Creative, and again, this link will be in the description. But they have straps, so a lot of people find the Halo type of headsets uncomfortable, and so they make these straps to kind of give you some more support. And I'm like, this is great, because I actually don't find the Halos as comfortable as the Rift. So they're running around $20 to $30, very affordable. So I figured I'd share that with everybody just in case you're in one of those people who find your headset uncomfortable. This is a nice little add-on, very inexpensive too. So I wanted to give them a shout out. I do not have one of these, so just throw that out there. Also, up on Upload VR, they have a great news site. They are putting together a list of all the cross buys between the Rift and the Quest, and this is important to me because I pre-ordered the Quest and I have a Rift. So if I can buy one and get twice, that's great. So you can see that up there, and there's some good titles in this list. So yeah, no Beat Saber, but I got Orbis, so I haven't yet to try that, so that's great. Robo Recall, that's one you have to try right away as soon as you get your headset, Aga. Space Pirate Train is a lot of fun. I have that on Steam. I also have Ultra Wings on Steam. But in any case, I wanted to make people aware of that. And then let me bring this slide up and have you talk about that. How about this? This was your post, right?
Yeah, so it's very interesting. So these are new PSVR bundles, which are on sale, and we try and find good deals out there and ways for people to on-ramp into VR at a price discount. So this came across my radar. So basically, this was announced on the PlayStation blog earlier today. 2 new PSVR bundles, one that includes Blood and Truth and Everybody's Golf VR for $350, This was, by the way, this was sourced on uploadvr.com. And then later, so that one comes out on May 28th, and then a few days later, is this going into Memorial Day weekend or over Memorial Day weekend? So, and then later on the 31st, you get another bundle that includes Trover Saves the Universe and Five Nights at Freddy's VR Help Wanted for $300. The critical difference between the two is that the $350 bundle includes the Move controller. So both bundles include the headset, the Link station, and the PlayStation camera. But the motion controllers only come packed in with the higher end unit. Recent improvements about, so first of all, the tail of the tape for PlayStation VR is, I never thought I would be saying this on a podcast. Sony is very dedicated to this peripheral. It is not like every other Sony peripheral that has ever come out that's been associated with the console that has been abandoned within the course of a single holiday season. It's actually a way for them to recoup their investment on the motion controllers, which they launched several years ago. I think actually in conjunction with the PlayStation 3, I think, was when the motion controllers first came out. And were dead in the water. Like this was back when everybody was chasing the Wii. It's just, the Wii drove Microsoft to create the Kinect. And the motion controls just did not catch on. Fortunately, Sony found a way to kind of recapitalize on that R&D investment, and now integrated them in the overall PS4 or PSVR kit. So you do generally need all of those things for an effective VR experience on PlayStation. So this is not a bad way to get it. Other recent software updates for PlayStation VR include the fact that now HDR pass-through is enabled. So if other people are watching your VR gameplay on TV while you're under the visor, what used to happen is you wouldn't get HDR, which is kind of the same thing that happens normally when you, say, intercept that video signal with a capture card. Even the ones that will pass through the 4K signal, there's still no effective means to pass through the HDR codec. So that is not a bad deal. I'm kind of disappointed in myself because I have the PlayStation 4 Pro, but I also kept my PS4 OG, which I just really don't want to get out of. I guess I have some sentimental connection to it. And I look at these bundles and I'm like, PSVR is on the roadmap. It's on the list. I've said that I need to pick one up. This would be an effective way to do it. But I'm like, I cannot bring a third PlayStation 4 right into the studio. So good for others. I myself will have to keep looking.
I have a Slim. Does PSVR work on the Slim?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, you're gonna hit performance impacting events in certain games, and the more graphically intense the game is, the more that you will experience. You still get some performance hits even on the PlayStation 4 Pro, but they are less frequent, and they're not inclusive of the same performance hits you get on the OG PlayStation. You will see a large number of those get eliminated between the two by stepping up to the PS4 Pro. But at the end of the day, the PS4 Pro also doesn't steer entirely clear of those hiccups.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I think my days of consoles have kind of been waning. I mean, I got the PS4, I got the Xbox One X. I don't play them. I'm all VR now. Hey, one thing out there, the parents, because we always try to keep everything safe for work and home. Trover, I didn't realize this until I watched the video a few weeks ago. Glad my grandkids weren't around. They pop in, even in the middle of my live streams, they'll pop in and say hi. It is not for kids, okay? It is. Most parents will not be comfortable with the Trover content for children.
And Five Nights at Freddy is also not.
Okay, good. Yeah. That's good to know, because this will make most people blush if they hear this kind of stuff in public. It gets pretty bad.
But by the way, don't take that to mean that the others necessarily are, because I don't know about Blood and Truth. All I'm saying is that my understanding of familiarization with the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise is that is not something that you expose, your 5 to 10-year-old to. So
Yeah, Trover has an M. I can just see it on the box. Trover's an M. Five Nights is a T.
right.
Golf looks like an E, and Blood and Truth looks like an M. So
Okay.
thank goodness we have good ratings by the ESRB.
Right.
It just takes that all out of our hands. We can just say, as parents and grandparents, we can say it's an
Yeah.
M. You're not getting it, kid.
Yeah. Read
Unless you want to. I mean,
read the
free world.
ESRB rating.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
have been warned.
exactly. Yeah, we don't have parents and grandparents don't have enough on that plate to try to figure that stuff out. So with that, all of those links are going to be in the description. Now, I think to kind of wrap up before we get into the viewer comments, we had a lot of comments on the last show. Thank you all, by the way. I went through every comment and tried to give you a thumbs up and hearts wherever it made sense. I think we had one more thing on your side, though. The Final Assault. Now, I didn't play Project Cars 2 tonight in VR just because my wheel didn't work and everything. So really, as far as the weekly gameplay, I already talked about what we did in Carnage Chronicles last week, where we beat the boss. Yay! Or one of the first boss. I shouldn't get too excited, but I wanted to hear your thoughts on the Final Assault. So if you could take it away and tell us about that.
Yeah, so damn it, for some reason my Steam refreshed and it dumped off the Blessed Games game page. So Final Assault is a real-time simulation game for VR. Made by a company called Phaserlock Interactive. It is currently still in early access, due to do full release at last time I checked on the 16th of May. So right off the top of my head, I'm not seeing. So they're still listing it as Final Assault launch date 5/16. So it should be formally released next week. There's a lot of games that to me kind of emotionally and spiritually evoke similar, or Final Assault evokes similar feelings. Gray, I think you know this game. I was trying to remember it last night. Field Runners. So there's pieces of it that feel like Field Runners, which is a tower defense iOS game. It was like the first big tower defense game that I ever played. There's also certain feelings of I want to make sure I'm not getting Final Assault mixed up with God's Trigger, which is another new game that I've been playing. But yeah, I think that's probably the closest thing. It feels a lot like Field Runners. So managing a real-time strategy game, an RTS game, we kind of have that framework, that paradigm in our heads. Again, when things get busy from a unit perspective, that's still not insignificant cognitive load. You then add in the application of motion controls being utilized for this. And you can get to a point where I feel just underneath the cuffs of being overloaded with certain ones of these tactical situations. The compensating factor in the game's design right now, which I haven't settled on whether or not I like where they are with this game balance, but for the ground units, what you can do is when you command a ground unit to be created, there's always, at least on the maps I've played so far, there are always a left side and a right side strike lane, assault lane from your base to the enemy base. And so when you create units, you can then tell them, as part of the creation queue, you tell them where to move to, and you can put them on a strike path. So when you hover the motion control over the lane, you will see a series of green arrows that go from your side of the map all the way to the other. If you tell the ground unit to spawn and go there, it will just launch on an offensive attack all the way to the other side of the map. So that's a good balance that kind of reduces that level of cognitive load of you not needing to micromanage units. And so kind of what I wind up coming around to is queuing up the creation of ground units. So when I'm going to launch launching an offensive for me is as quickly as I'm earning money, setting units down either the left or the right hand side to onto that offensive flow path. The flip side of that balance is air units. So air units, what they do is when you spawn them and tell them to go somewhere, they essentially always go to that position and set up as a cap, or for non-military types, a combat air patrol. The issue with that is, and I think when they first arrive at that position, they will attack. They will do one attack on units in the vicinity there. After that, they don't do anything. They just circle, and from that point on, at least right now, getting them to attack anything requires you go and manually handling the unit and pointing it to a run to make. Right now, I also only have access to like fighter aircraft, so all those runs are strafing runs. One of the things that I've seen is there are a certain level of tank that the enemy will launch that like cannot be defeated by your fighter aircraft, and so they're like kind of like Uber tanks. They can only be taken down by a base artillery salvo. So you have mobile artillery that has a certain caliber of weapons. Then you can gain a base ability for a base salvo. I have seen the enemy fire basically a base level nuke or at least some type of long range cruise missile as the counterpoint to your artillery barrage. So it's a really pretty awesome game. It's a ton of fun to play. Like I said, my cognitive load, gets driven to a point where it's very busy. There's a highly rewarding feeling of satisfaction from when you overcome a particular scenario. The other reason I love it is in similar design to Rome Total War. This is a game that has both a strategic map where you start out kind of with kind of a chessboard of maneuvering pieces across and deciding, in a turn-based manner, which hexagon they're going to go into next. But then once you engage with a unit, then you are zoomed into the tactical battlefield, and then you're given control over units there. Your own friendly AI also seems to continuously and periodically spawn infantry that you don't control. And so those are just kind of on the map, and you don't have to be loaded doing those. But game looks good. Game plays good. It's in early access. I've experienced one crash. Again, and I was trying to live stream. So, the PC was trying to handle the game and VR and a live stream. So those things will happen. But it did not happen at the level of frequency that it happens with Project Cars, which is not Project Cars 2, but Project Cars, which is kind of my baseline. Like, if it exceeds the stability of Project Cars, then I'm happy. So I look forward to the game being officially released. I normally don't do early access, but you kind of have to if you're going to be into VR to a certain extent, because there's just, for me, there's not a ton of games out, particularly when I'm looking for new gems. But yeah, so right now the game is $19.99 on Steam. It has been reviewed by what looks like 91 people, which is a pretty significant amount for a VR release, and is trending with a very positive review level on Steam. And like I said, is tracking for release on May 16th. It looks like it may not have been in early access that long. It has a March 21st, 2019 initial release date. So that's not a bad incubation period for an early access game. This is not a game that's been in early access for like 2 years on Steam. So it fully supports Oculus, HTC Vive, and Windows Mixed Reality. There's intended support for PlayStation VR, and incidentally, just as part of the full-blown report out, I did play the game in Windows Mixed Reality, so with the Acer AH101 headset, and it worked perfectly fine.
Hey, I want to add to that too. Two things. When it comes out on the 16th, the price goes up by $10. So if you want to get it for $19.99, you got to do it before the 16th. And the second, I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. Sorry. Sometimes you just can't stop those. The other thing I want to point out is this is one of those games, and you got to be very careful with this. This is one of the games that supports cross-platform support between Oculus, HTC, and Windows Mixed Reality. I'm taking that to mean, now, let me back up. Any game that supports multiple headsets it's just one game. And if you buy it from Steam, you can play with Steam. The big question here is if you're going to buy something on Oculus, or you're going to buy something on Steam to play with somebody who bought it on Oculus, or Vive Port, you got to make sure that it supports the cross-store play, okay? Because a lot of the small vendors, I think we talked about this last week, a lot of the small game companies don't have they don't have the what's what I'm looking for. They don't have the funds to build out all their own servers. Orbis is one that does. They have their own server, and anywhere you buy Orbis, you play in the same world with everybody else. But you want to be very careful about that. And I would have to. This says cross-platform support. Um, so it makes it sound like you will be able to play with Oculus people, but you always want to double check that. So it looks good. I don't see anywhere where it's coming for the Quest, so I'll probably hold off on it. But it looks like fun. I didn't see any co-op either. Does it have co-op? No, online multiplayer. Yeah, it doesn't have any co-op either. So I just love my co-op. But thank you for giving us a review on that. I'm going to watch some more videos on that. I may end up picking it up. I don't know.
Yeah, and if you want to watch a video on it, I do have 2 live streams on my channel featuring gameplay. And you can either find those on the Rounding Off Infinity channel, or if you go to, I should give you my blog. Well, I think you have the blog link in the show notes. So if you go to the blog link, there is now a video section that includes constantly updating feed from the Rounding Off Infinity YouTube channel. And you can easily find those Final Assault videos in there because they're right very near the top of the queue. And this game is available in the Rift store. I got to work with you to get smart on how to understand whether or not something says it is going to be cross buy and cross compatible, over to the Rift Quest.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, any game you buy on Steam, if it supports 3 headsets, those 3 headsets can play together. That's not a question. You're buying one set of code that supports. It's like 3 different controllers, right? Xbox, PS4 controller, it doesn't matter. It's the cross store that's you're always looking for. Can Steam players play with Oculus? That's the one thing. And there's games like we talked about before, Bridge Crew, where you can play Oculus players, you can play with Steam players, which can play with PSVR players. So that's really more when we're thinking across platform. Hopefully, again, I always want people to be very clear. But a lot of the smaller indie games do not support cross-platform because they use Steam to spin up their server, or they use Oculus to spin up their server. But with that said, I do wanted to point out that if you look at our homepage now at the Gamer Show, you will see featured channels, and you'll see Nathan, you'll see Mike from Virtual Reality Oasis, and you'll see Rounding Off Infinity right there on our homepage. So if you're like, hey, where's the Agus channel? It's right there on the featured channels. With some of the other great, like Tested, and some of the other Josh, and just some of the Obsidian Ant, which talks to the Elite Dangerous side. But I went in there and put some featured channels in, and you'll see Rounding Off Infinity there as well as the again, links. Did I say this like 5 times? I'm sorry. Links in the description. But with that, anything else before I get into the user comments from last week's show?
Nope. I was going to say thanks so much for putting me up on your guys' channel page. And are you ready to roll on to viewer comments?
Yeah. So just wanted to share some of these comments with you. SML0033 chimed in on last week's show saying, hey, I'm having a hard time deciding Rift S or Quest. Worry about the blacks not looking good with LCDs versus OLEDs. And which way to go? Should I go PC? Should I go standalone? And SML said, "Hey, I got a great PC. It's a fairly new, great PC." And kind of asking what we think, and it's like, that's a tough choice. Do you want standalone, or do you want PC based? It's a very hard choice. I would just look at the reviews of the different games, look at gameplay of each of the games, and try to make a decision there. I started with all PC because I just wanted the power and I wanted the best experiences. So,
and this is one of these questions that, and I'm not saying anything about SML. He may fully understand, but when I see this from, other people, but just in large numbers, this is where I get concerned about not being certain that Oculus is fully communicated well to everyone the extreme differences between these two products. And I actually, I did take some time and found some time to go back and post some responses to some of these on top of yours, Gray. And my response to SML was, it depends on what type of gaming you want. And I know there's cross-platform and cross-play and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, my thing is, if you're buying VR to play high-fidelity gaming experiences, if you want to play Elite Dangerous, if you want to play a driving racing simulation and you want to hook up your wheel and pedals and flight control sticks and all that stuff, you get Rift S. If you want to play mobile experiences, then you get Quest. And I know there's going to be some blending, and that's going to get muddied the longer that roadmap goes on. But upfront, day one, if you're a hardcore PC gamer, get Rift S. If you are fine with mobile experiences, get Quest and hope that it's going to grow into things that are more akin to high-fidelity PC gaming experiences.
Yeah, I mean, if you're most impressed by Beat Saber and games like that, Vacation Simulator, then, and you travel and you don't want wires and you don't have an awesome gaming PC, that's one way to go. The other way is, that's why I think some people are getting the Index. They want the best tracking possible, so they're like, hey, I spent $1,000 on my graphics card. It's a no-brainer to spend $1,000 on a top of the line, Gen 1.5 Index complete bundle. And I totally get that. And, I want to go to Duplicity. Who chimed in saying, hey, it's a tough choice for me. I love the ease of use of the Inside Out brings, but the track and fidelity isn't there. So it's a compromise I don't want to make. So I'm going with the Index. Then Falcon LX 911 had a lot of great stuff this year. I kind of condensed it here, but he goes, you say 100. You say 100. You say $1,000 is too high. No, 100 would have been perfect. You say 1,000. That was my mistake. You say 1,000 is too high in price, but the Vive Pro was 1,100, and the Pimax 5K is 900 without anything else, without controllers or base stations, which is very true. It's like, yeah, I would have preferred a lower price, but look at the Rift S. That's too low. You got low res, you got low refresh rate. And the Quest, that's not for PC gaming. So you can't, and you can't play any of your Steam games. So, Windows mixed reality headsets, while they're great prices, they have those blind spots because they only have 2 cameras. So what else is on the market? The original Vive or Rift, they're just really old. And that's why he's like, I was hoping it was going to be $800, but and kind of disappointed because they said the lighthouses were going to be more inexpensive, and now they're more expensive, So, but what is the other choice? And I think a lot of people feel just like Falcon. I think he makes a lot of sense. And then the last one I'll cover is antitrust. Antitrust anonymity. He's like, I just pre-ordered the Rift S. The $1,000 was just too expensive right now for me. And so I want to thank everybody. We had some great conversations up there on last week's show. And you wanted to chime in. Go ahead, Ega.
Yeah, so I responded to Falcon LX, and it's similar to Antitrust as well. So one of the things that I think we didn't talk about last week that I'll mention here because I felt we needed to add it is there's a conversation about how the Index compares to the rest of the offerings across the industry. Absolutely. That's a conversation you have in my mind. That's a conversation you have when you say, I'm going VR and the sky's the limit, right? I'm going to get something, it's just like, what's the best thing? Which I mentioned last week when I talked about the GPU question about like, what is the best GPU for VR is a different question than what is the best GPU. In other conversations I have with people when they're building PCs, what's the best GPU at a particular price point or for this use case? Those things are different questions. One of the things we didn't cover and that I added in the comment was, to me, it's not just a matter of how does it compare across the industry, it's what's my ROI or my return on investment. To me, there is not $1,000 worth of rewarding VR content out there that is commensurate with me expending the amount of money on the Index. Now, if you're a guy like Duplicity, which it sounds to me like Duplicity is a hardcore VR gamer, that's my primary PC gaming experience, and so I need the highest fidelity, best solution available. that's that end of the spectrum. But for me, I'm a variety gamer. I play tons of games across a lot of different platforms. VR is one segment of that, and I'm like, there's not enough games commensurate with a $1,000 price that's going to occupy enough of my attention to warrant spending the amount of money that I would spend for 2 consoles, right? Or is the price I would pay to build like a medium grade gaming PC? So those are sort of kind of the other questions that you have to ask. So it's too high a price. It's too high a price compared to everything else on the market. It's too high a price to warrant me putting that money out for what I'm going to get out of it.
And I agree with you. And there's other levels there. Let me click on, I'm okay with taking the journey. I'm okay with the journey because it's not the destination, folks. It's the journey. And so, if I had, let's say I got a big bonus from work, yeah, I would go out and get an RTX 1080 or 2080, and I would build myself a new i9, and I would be like, yeah, I'm gonna get the index and the full kit. Absolutely, but until those big bonuses come, it's kind of like, well, let's. I don't feel like I have to rush. I have a 1070 GTX, and I'll take the journey. And so I started with the Rift S. Then I got these Windows Mixed Reality, a great deal on those, and I'm not ready to jump in on the. That's why I'm going with the Quest. I figured, hey, let's take a side trip, go see some of the mobile games. It'll give me a chance to play VR when I'm not at home and not online, and I'll wait to see what happens. Worst case, the prices will come down on RTXs and the prices will come down on the Index kit. But it really depends on where you are right now. If you're buying your first VR headset, maybe it makes sense to get a Rift S. Great headset. I love my Rift, and it's much better than the Rift. But to me, it's not an upgrade from the Rift. So will it be the Cosmos? Will it be the Index after the first price cut? I don't know. Will it be something else? Who knows? It's going to come out with something else.
Yeah.
But everybody's in a different space. Everybody's somewhere. Everybody's in their unique position. So different headsets are right for different people. Go ahead.
Yeah, you made a great suggestion there. Kind of, I think you were kind of pointing at, give consideration to the notion of entering slow and easy, and then scaling up as you go. Right, dropping because I can't remember his name now because I closed the thing, but SLM or something like that. He would mention it's his first VR headset. Again, I'm going to question the willingness to drop $1,000 on your first headset when you don't know. You may not know for certain. Now, maybe he's tested or used his friends and he gets that he's going to love VR. That's a significant outlay. It may warrant. I mean, and these things have good resale value right now. So, maybe going 400 now and then eBaying that and using what you get back from that to then put towards $1,000 might be a route. So
that's a great point, and that's why a lot of my friends started with Windows Mixed Reality because they were $200 brand new. How do you beat that? But I think that's it. I think we hit the bottom of tonight's show notes. Anything else we need to cover? Any final words?
No, man. We're at almost an hour and 20 minutes, so I think we covered it all for episode number 2.
Well, hey, I want to thank everybody out there for watching us, for spending your evening with us. The VR game nights here with our VR news and talk show. We love to hear from you in the comments, so please chime in. You will find me at the Gamer Show, especially live from the Oasis, where I do all my VR stuff. And of course, we do Elite Dangerous on Sunday nights. And you'll find Aga over at Rounding Off Affinity, and I got links to all his stuff right there in the description. So check those out. But please engage with us in the comments. We love hearing what you think, because so far you've only heard our opinions. And with that, I want to say goodnight and wish you all a great week. And until next time, my friends, peace.